Hello and welcome to episode 83 of the Life in Journal podcast. My name is Nick.
My name is Ian. I don't know.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. I kind of just like riff off of however it sounds for you.
My name is Jarbob.
That's a little joke that maybe you'll understand in a few minutes.
Maybe we'll get to it. So any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com. Check us on Twitter at LIGpod. We got a page on the Facebook page. On Facebook, I guess the Facebook's more than just a page.
Right. We got a page on the page?
You got a page on the page.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was laughing too much before I hit the record button. Yeah. You can check us out on iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Spotify, just about everywhere else.
The YouTube?
Oh, thank you, Ian. I guess I need to add that to my list.
You do, and you know, it's fine because it's nice that I bring something to the show once in a while.
There is Ian's contribution, and guess what, everyone? He didn't even need notes to say that.
You're right. I didn't.
He just remembered that.
No, I had a cup of coffee today, so
Is that what it is?
Actually,
in your frappuccino.
My little frappuccino, just because I didn't have time to drive out of my way to stop it.
Your frat boy frappuccino.
No need to be mean.
I'm sad now.
My feelings are hurt. It's tough being a white man in America.
Dear God,
I say that as sarcastically as it should sound. Hopefully,
that's good.
Yes. We were reading some comments before this from white guys who think that it sucks to be a white man in America.
I'm going to read some comments here.
Yes.
So we actually have a topic today.
And actually. We're going to do kind of a double show, really.
Well,
kind of.
Well, so it was only supposed to be one topic. We're going to talk about some underreported news of this year, and then unfortunately with the mass shootings the past week, we kind of felt it was kind of not necessary, but
right. We should bring it up.
Yeah, we should kind of talk about it a little bit. And so it was El Paso. It was a Walmart in El Paso, and then there was just like a downtown district, basically, like a club area in Dayton. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure everyone listening's already heard about all the shootings and all that stuff. And it kind of made me think. Sorry. It's it's a reference to a comment I was reading a couple minutes ago. But so it just kind of made me think of what some of the gunfight currently is in the United States as far as like gun control and there's a lot of people are kind of coming out with some plans, but I saw one in particular that kind of piqued my interest, and that was from Pete Buttigieg, and it's Mayor Pete. And like I said before, this is definitely not underreported stuff. This is stuff but I think it needs to be talked about.
Right.
And who better to talk about than two white guys sitting in a basement in Dundee, Michigan that know absolutely nothing about anything.
No, you're right, but
that was somewhat tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, we don't have the answers, but this has become such a common thing. It's some of the answers are becoming more obvious, or at least should be becoming more obvious to some. We live in a country that has
more guns than people?
More guns than people, and we've also had more mass shootings than any other country in the world.
And that was the other thing I was going to get to. So El Paso and Dayton were the 250th and 251st mass shootings this year in
8 months.
But I don't really know, or I'm not entirely sure what they use to classify a mass shooting, because I see vastly different numbers.
Right.
And the different sources I looked at, each one of them kind of classify or define a mass shooting differently.
Right.
So that's why I've seen low numbers, like, 20s and 30s for the year, and then I've seen high numbers like 250 for the year. So
by comparison to every other civilized country out there that has none.
The maximum, like 3?
Yes. Should say something, because every time there's a mass shooting, everyone says we need more guns. Well, we have more guns. We have more guns than we have people, as you just pointed out, and the shootings continue. Yeah. So more guns is not the fucking answer.
I mean, so regardless of what the number is, mass shooting wise, it's definitely an issue that we as a nation need to confront. One way or another, we got to do something about it.
Right. No, we don't, and I don't think we will.
You're right. We probably won't. Mm-hmm. But I felt like Mayor Pete not only had kind of a comprehensive plan, but I think he had a lot of them were, I think, ideas that probably will have wide support across the country.
Still won't happen.
It's still, you're right. And hold on, I'm just gonna bring up the website because I started writing down some of the like points of his plan, but there's just so much of it. And
yeah,
he's got to
kind of scroll through it.
Yeah, and I was going to, and I was really only kind of talk about one section of it because he's got 3 different sections. He's got a policy action section, he's got a political action section, and then he's got civic action. I was only going to kind of go over the policy stuff, and before we started recording this, so originally I found the article about his plan on Breitbart, which if you don't want to know is that it's a
very right wing.
It's a very right wing website, and so I was scrolling through some of the comments earlier, and we were having a good laugh at some of the comments. But so the one that I'm reading off of, it's off of medium.com. And so like one of the big main like policy actions, he wants to dedicate $1 billion to prevent and combat radicalization and violent extremism.
That was one of the ones that I read, and I just don't understand how that, because it's dangerous. It's not dangerous. It's difficult to try to manage thought, because extremism, at its core, is thought. It's ideas, and it's difficult to fight that.
I think what they're going towards is, at least from what he's got on here, he's got empower law enforcement, including the FBI, state and local authorities, with greater resources for preventing domestic terrorism. He says that more than 70% of international terrorism arrests occur before violence takes place. With domestic terrorism, the opposite is true. 72% of arrests occur after the violent act.
Right, but see, but the problem is that, and it does go into detail about putting watches on extremist websites and things like that. But if these organizations that are the dangerous groups they're being watched, they're going to find ways to not be watched.
Well, I guess that's the other thing is, and you can look at that statistic and go, wow, that's a drastic thing. 70% they're caught before the act takes place, 72 domestically take place afterwards. But you're also talking about international terrorism generally comes from a larger network.
Right.
More than just a single individual
and
or
not
two
just,
individuals.
And it's not just the U.S. that we're relying on, the U.S. intelligence. That's international intelligence.
Correct.
And intelligence, that level of intelligence, technically wouldn't necessarily be legal in this country, at least arguably not.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we kind of spy on our own citizens as it is.
Right, but see, that's a gray area that's people are starting to come to consider. Well, a lot of people are considering it okay, but a lot of people aren't.
No.
I mean, there are limits. I don't care about cameras watching traffic, but if they start watching what I'm watching and, creating a database on what I'm doing, I have a problem with that.
But I guess the point I was trying to make is the larger the network is in the terrorist organization, it's going to be easier to track those individuals down.
Perhaps.
Over a lone gunman type of situation. But
but see, a lot of these people, they have the same. The rhetoric is all the same. And not all of them are shooting people.
But a lot of them are posting things online. The guy in El Paso posted online, basically saying that he was doing.
Yeah, before he did it, though.
But the problem was, I think it was an hour or 2 hours before is when it got posted.
That's not what I heard. I heard he posted it. He posted it all and then walked into Walmart.
But the problem
did it from his phone.
But the problem was, even if you had a week, he didn't say where it was going to take place.
Well, true.
So they had really no information to go off of.
Right, but they had him. They could have gone after him if they had a week.
Exactly.
They didn't. As far as I was under the impression, I could be wrong.
I thought it was longer than.
No, I think he did it. He literally posted it and then walked into the Walmart. That's how I understood it based on what they said.
Yeah, I heard it was longer than that. It probably wasn't an hour, but it was definitely more than him walking in. I'm pretty sure it was.
And that being said, I mean.
And a lot of these guys use the same website.
Well, right. But my point is that we've always had this thing in this country where, as ugly and distasteful as the Ku Klux Klan is, their right to be themselves and exist and have rallies and have websites is protected under the First Amendment, regardless of how disgusting that is. So how can they not still offer that same protection to these people up to the point where they actually threaten? Because they don't have to threaten.
Well, when you post something online, that's definitely a threat.
That is, but we're not talking about that. That's the extreme. What I'm talking about is all these people were posting. He was posting shit, racist, negative shit before that.
Yeah.
It just wasn't talking about shooting anybody. So how can you watch them if they're posting all that stuff until 10 minutes before they go out and shoot somebody, and then they say, I'm shooting somebody?
And that's the thing is...
I'm not knocking down the plan. I'm just saying that it's not as easy as this makes it sound.
Well, nothing ever is. But the other thing, another big part of his plan is red flag laws. So, because in a lot of these instances where you have these homegrown terrorists, these domestic terrorists doing these shootings, mass shootings, and things like that, after the fact, you always see interviews with family members. Oh, well, there was Johnny had issues, and we had this. He's had issues before in the past, and he's had anger problems, and there always seems to be, in a lot of these cases, domestic violence and things like that.
But not always. That's the problem.
No, but that's the problem. You're never going to stop all of them.
Right.
But the thing is, Ian, if we stop one of them...
True, but I don't know if... I'm just saying that this was the one thing I had a problem with, because there's so many different gray areas. There are millions and millions of people who have...
But this is just one piece of his plan.
I understand that. Well, this is the one piece that people are going to be more on board for, initially, anyway. When you start talking about gun buybacks and limiting capacities and stuff, which he does get to...
He does.
That is where the people are going to say no.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, just being able to own a gun isn't enough. You have to be able to shoot 10 billion rounds a second with it.
Granted, yes, you're right. There's a lot of this. Well, I would say a lot of this stuff. There is some stuff in his plan that would never get passed. But there's definitely consensus across Republicans and Democrats on something like universal background checks.
There has been, and they're still not doing anything about it.
I know.
So what? The consensus is all talk. Oh yeah, we like that idea, but they're never going to fucking do it.
But I believe if you had a president that made this part of their plan and was pushing it, it'd be a lot easier for the public to get behind the plan and push Congress to do something. But unfortunately, we don't have that situation.
No, we have a president who posed with the baby who was protected by who lost his parents because they protected him, because no other victim at the hospital wanted to have a photo op with him. So it's easy. You can't argue with the baby. Luckily, the uncle and aunt who are taking the baby in are Trump supporters. Yeah.
So he also, like you said, he did propose a ban on assault weapons in high capacity magazines.
Because then you have the issue of defining what an assault weapon is.
And that's what I was
that's what they're going to get. That's where the argument is now.
And that's kind of been. I mean, that's been the argument since, was it 94 when the first assault weapons ban was passed. And I mean, I do agree that we don't need to have weapons that have a capacity over 10. In no situation you're going to need 11 bullets, right? If someone's breaking in your house and you need to use more than 10 bullets, I mean,
your gun's not going to
do any good.
Right. Perhaps.
You're either getting like a mob of people busting in your house, or you're just a really bad shot.
Right. Or the person's on like meth or something and they're just not feeling it.
You shoot somebody 10 times, they're going to feel it.
I don't know.
They're going to...
Weirder things have happened.
Well, that's true.
Michael Myers was shot 10 times.
I always thought you were going to say something about zombies, but...
No, I'm not a zombie guy. I'm a slasher guy.
Now, the another part of it that this is one of the things that'll never happen, and that's establishing a nationwide gun licensing system.
And I think that's the most logical thing.
I think it is too, but
you're right, that'll never happen.
And law enforcement's even kind of pushed for that before. Also, I don't know what their stance is on it right now, but I've heard people in law enforcement community before talk about, going to a house, being called on a domestic situation, going to a house, it would be nice to know if there are guns in the house.
Right. Or at least, or possibly guns.
Possibly guns, which is something a registration or a registry would do. But then again, the other side of the argument has always been, well, then they're going to track you, and then they're going to come and get your guns because they know you have them.
Or, well, what's the difference between them knowing you have a gun and then them knowing you have a car?
Because a car is not the right to own a car isn't in the Constitution. That's what that's what the argument is. There you have
and for what it's worth, it's easier to get a gun than it is a car.
Well, it's cheaper for sure.
Right. Well, the paperwork, you don't have to fill out all the same amount of paperwork that for a gun as you do. You can't even drive a car off the lot without having insurance on it.
Okay. Well, you're not required to have insurance on guns.
Yeah, but apparently you're not required to do anything. You can just go buy a gun and do whatever you want with it.
So here's this part I was looking for the part about red flag laws because I couldn't remember it exactly, but it says support red flag laws that disarm domestic abusers, in particular is what he's going after. But it says red flag laws allow a judge to seize legally owned guns if someone is determined to be an immediate threat to themselves or others. In many cases, people close to a mass shooter have observed clear warning signs of violence, such as stalking or abusing women, but were unable to act to keep the shooter from accessing weapons. Congress should pass a federal extreme risk protection order act to allow for intervention before this is carnage.
The problem is that when in 2017, I'm going to look up the bill. House Republicans loosened the law for the people who were deemed to have mental illness. Mm-hmm. There was a law, or there were restrictions that if you were diagnosed mentally ill, you could not buy a gun. They loosened those laws so that you could.
And then they were strengthened under President Obama. And
this was just 2017. They loosened them.
Well, Trump did it by executive order.
Right. Well, I didn't know that. I just know that it was done in 2017. This is under the Trump administration. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't look up the details. But to me, if that's the case, then why are Republicans pushing for this mental health being a mental health issue? Because
they shouldn't push too hard because a lot of the people I was going to read comments from are
obviously mentally ill,
suffering from mental illness.
Definitely a lack of education in some cases.
So like I said, we had a good laugh. I was reading this off of the article off of Breitbart originally. And there was a lot of comments on here. I was just going to run through a couple of them. This
is the lighter side of the issue, I suppose.
This is definitely. I got one. It's the Central Scrutinizer is the guy's handle, I guess.
Okay.
But he starts off his sentence by saying, "Me thinks." And that was the thing that kind of caught my eye because it's not even. First off, it doesn't even go together. And he's got it written as all one word.
Right.
Like, me thinks. Me thinks that you're short on your estimate. He's talking about... So the comment above him was talking about how many. It says we have 100 million armed patriots in this country. That constitutes the largest standing army in the world, and our globalist leaders know it. Was the comment above it? So I'm assuming this guy, the me thinks guy, is responding to that. Mm-hmm. But he says me thinks that you're short on your estimate. I believe there may be twice that many. And this is really hard to read, by the way, the way it's written.
Yeah.
There's a boatload of unregistered guns out there, hand-me-downs from grandpa, dad, etc. It was one of those comments like, how do you reason with an individual like that?
Right. Well, the sad thing is that individuals like that, they vote.
Yeah.
Whereas people who a lot of people, obviously not us because we do vote, a lot of people...
Sorry, I'm not laughing. I'm laughing.
I know. A lot of people who are far more educated and more reasonable don't vote. It's just a sad state I had to point out there. What were you just laughing at?
Because the guy wrote, the right to bear arms is also used to protect oneself against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But he wrote the bear the wrong way.
B-E-A-R?
I got bear arms.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah,
it's so sad that the public school system has failed these people so badly.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I was trying to find some other funny ones.
And this is kind of, we were talking about this before. I was thinking, if I would love to comment on some of these. I'd love to go and just, call these people out on some of their, there's a lot of ignorance. There's a lot of bigotry that we were reading earlier on because they're all talking. It all started based on Mayor Pete's proposal.
Yeah, so
instead of attacking the proposal, they went straight to attacking him being a homosexual.
Mayor Buttplug is what a lot of them say.
So we, I would love to go on and challenge a lot of these people's assumptions. But is it possible that I could be red flagged just for being on a Breitbart site? Because obviously, Breitbart has been known to have very extreme views, and a lot of extreme people have been known to use Breitbart as a news source. Would that be a risk, do you think? People who even just knowing the other side, challenging the other side, would they risk getting put on watch lists and things like that?
I don't know.
See, those are the concerns I would have.
And it's not a watch list.
Well, a red flag list is a watch list.
It's not. It's not list. It's just red flag laws where it creates a legal process for someone who has mental instability to have their guns taken away.
Right. Once their guns are taken away, they have to be on a list because what's to stop them from going and getting more?
I guess in the
broader sense, it's a list.
Well, it would put the red flag. I think is more so a flag on your name in the registry when you go through to buy a gun. Go through a background check. There's a flag on your name in that sense, I guess.
Right. And it's not going to stop the backyard sales or the gun show issue, whatever the gun show loophole is.
So there's another conversation about because he wants to limit it to, like I said before, 10 rounds.
10 rounds, yeah.
And another comment on here says, "Hey, butt gigolo."
Okay.
So, yeah.
It says, you listeners out there are probably getting a sense of a pattern here.
It says, "I don't have any magazines that small. Sorry, toots." And there's like a whole thread on this one guy's comment.
Because that's what I just don't understand. Why are people so they cling to their guns and say it's patriotism, but it's fear. They are so afraid of everything that they feel they need to have an arsenal to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Why are people so afraid?
I mean, that's been an issue for a long time, though.
I know, but I don't get it.
And I think,
where does it come from?
I think the internet has fed a lot of that into it.
Yeah, but you said it's gone on for a long time. What about the people who were like this before the internet? There were just as many.
Well, yeah, but they weren't able to talk to each other.
No, but the fear was the same. It was the same thing. The gun issues have always been the NRA has been strong in fighting gun regulation
for a long time.
Decades.
Yes, I know.
Far longer than the internet.
Yeah.
So this fear has existed, or at least been bred into these people through propaganda from the NRA.
Yeah.
For years. Where does that fear come from? And what people don't understand, and this is really what bothers me the most, is these people who spout the NRA talking points don't realize that they are being used to sell more guns.
That's exactly what it is.
Has nothing. The NRA does not care about your freedom. They are there to sell guns. Their job is to sell you a gun. Yeah. And if they can't sell you a gun, they can't make money. So they get you to think certain ways and advertise for them. They are using you, and then you go and buy the guns.
That's because they go out. So the NRA started as a legitimate organization. They did like hunting classes and things like that. Mm-hmm. It was all about gun safety, and then over the course of 50 years, it's kind of morphed into what it is now. But I don't know. I don't want to go too long into this.
It's a gun lobby. It's a gun lobby.
That's what it is. But
they work for the fucking gun manufacturers who sell guns. Their job is to sell guns.
I don't know. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up, and if you are interested in some of the gun control things going around, I go out there and check out Mayor Pete's proposal that he's got. It's like I said. Some of it, I think, would have broad support, but a lot of it, I don't think is.
Well, here's the
a lot of it. Line. A lot of it's it's a non-starter on a lot of the stuff.
Well, it's a non-starter because bottom line is, what do you think Mayor Pete's chances of even getting the nomination are?
Oh, 0.
Exactly.
I mean,
now that doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't have a chance to be a VP choice.
I don't think he'd even be that.
Yeah, maybe not, but at least the possibility is still there. The argument is though no one is going to pick up his bill, his ideas.
No.
So it doesn't really matter.
But it does because
the only credit I can give it
is a good conversation starter.
It's a good conversation starter, and it's more than most politicians are offering.
Yeah, well, it's more than I think I really haven't heard a plan from really any of the other Democrats.
Well, there was that one. I mean, I think he's already probably out of it. I don't think he's qualified for the next debate. I forgot his name. But in the first debate, it was actually the second night of the first debate, he said he had a comprehensive gun registry, and he brought that up, and that was before the shooting. Yeah. So they are talking about it.
Well, I haven't heard really anyone else talk about it
since the shooting. Right. Well, it's such a negative thing. I don't know if anyone can talk about it.
Why can't you?
Because the climate we live in. We don't live in a world where rationality works.
That's true.
We live in a world where it's all sound bites. So if you've got Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris saying anything about guns right now, they're automatically going to be lumped in with the people who want to take away all the white people's guns, especially if it's Kamala Harris.
Yeah. I don't know.
The white people are really going apeshit over her. They do not like her.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of her.
I'm not either, but it has nothing to do with her being a woman of color.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with her, more so. I don't know. It's
her policies.
It's the policies.
It's her policies, and I just don't like her. I think she's too corporatist.
Yeah, they say the same thing about Cory Booker too, but
I agree with them too. I think he is.
We'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. But I don't know. On to some lighter news.
And Tulsi Gabbard either. You really can't make that argument with her.
Yeah, she's kind of crazy though. Well, no, I'm thinking
really,
no. Who's the one? Who's the crazy one I'm thinking of?
Michelle Williams or Michelle something?
Is that the crystal lady?
Yeah. Okay, the hippie chick. the one whose platform is love
and essential oils.
Yeah. I think she basically lives in that one aisle at CVS where it's all holistic. She's sawdust pills and shit.
I've seen a couple interviews with her, and I'm like,
she was on Bill Maher last week.
Oh, was she? Yeah. I don't know. I haven't watched this show in forever. But
last week was his first episode back from his July break, and she was on there.
Yeah, but she's definitely an interesting character.
She's something else. Bill Maher was polite to her, but he did even like jab at her a couple times. Right?
Oh, really?
Show, yeah.
So I kind of wanted to get on to a couple of stories I saw that I felt like there's really no news coverage on some of this stuff, and to a certain extent, I think one of them has to deal with climate change.
Mm-hmm. There's probably a lot of stuff on climate change that's not talked about.
Another one has to do with abortion, surprisingly enough. There's an abortion battle in Florida that really hasn't been talked about. And then some another story on endangered animals. We'll get all that in a minute. Mm-hmm. Let's see. So, Ian, what stories did you come to talk about?
Why are you being that way? I told you I looked. I couldn't find any. And that's all I have to say about that. I did make an effort. I just,
So the first story I wanted to kind of touch on, it's about, so there's toxic mercury levels in fish in I think it's the Atlantic Ocean.
Mm-hmm. They're finding it in freshwater fish too.
So it says, according to a recent study released by Harvard scientists, climate change and overfishing has caused a dramatic rise in mercury levels in cod and tuna. So the interesting thing is, I believe it's cod is one of the fish that is recommended to pregnant women and young children. But with the mercury levels that are at the current level, I think they've gone up by like 25% over the last 30 years. It's actually toxic to children. It can cause brain damage and things like that. Because, we should have higher mercury levels.
Well, I mean, how else do you make more Republicans?
Ooh, sharp jab.
Sharp, but sadly true. Anyway.
But yeah, so like I was saying, though, the at these levels they can cause neurological disorders in children and babies. So, I mean, I would think that would be something that'd be talked about in the news.
You would think, but it's not.
So there's this, coal-fired power plants is the primary cause of
mercury poisoning
of the methylmercury issue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And but that's another kind of underreported thing, though, is anyone talking about trying to get rid of coal plants? It was brought up in 2016 and used as a punching bag against Hillary Clinton.
Right. Well, because they want to bring them back. They want to increase it.
Yeah.
Dig more coal.
So I got I did find the numbers here in my notes here. It said that methylmercury levels has risen 23% in cod and 27% in bluefin tuna in the Atlantic Ocean. But even at those levels, the U.S. government's still recommending that children, at least cod, they're still recommending cod to children for...
Well, they're not recommending that children eat it. They're just saying it's safe for children.
Well, they're still recommending it to help the child's development.
Really?
Yeah. Because the nutrient levels in the fish. But the harmful chemicals might kill you also. But
right.
But if the levels continue to rise, though, they're going to have to do something about... They'll have to do something about it eventually. Or not. And all the fish will just die and...
Or
we'll
population will just keep getting dumber and dumber, and
That's true.
We'll wipe ourselves out, and then the fish can eventually evolve the mercury out of them.
So it's funny. So lead gasoline was outlawed in the late 70s, early 80s.
No, 70s, early 70s.
Was it?
Yeah, they started moving into unleaded in the late 60s.
So 70s. About 20 to 25 later years after it was outlawed, there was a sharp decline in crime. So there was a correlation between the lead levels in everything,
right,
in our bodies and criminal
and
activity.
Lead paint, I think, was mid 70s, I think, too.
Yeah, around that same time.
Yeah.
So we saw an issue there, and changed it, or maybe not. It might have been the lower crime levels might have been a result that they weren't intending, but it still happened.
Right.
They saw an issue.
Well, and I'm sure that you could argue that there were other issues there too. I mean,
well, that's what I was trying to say.
There are other factors to take into account, but yeah, not just the lead.
No, but there was like I said, it was the sharp decline 20, 25 years after. Because it takes a while for it to get out of the environment.
Right.
So we saw an issue. We went after it. We did something about it. Why can't we do the same here?
Probably for the same reason we can't do anything in this goddamn country. Money.
Is that what it is?
It's money, yeah. If somebody is making too much money on something, even if it's bad for everybody, it's got to stay.
Yeah. And this is something we can't blame on China or anyone else. The U.S. accounts for 40% of all mercury emissions in the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because we still rely heavily on coal, and a lot of the other countries, including China, which is, by the way, ahead of their target reduction of carbon production.
I did see that recently.
They're ahead of their game, and we're way behind. Well, we don't even care anymore because came out of the Accords or whatever. It's not surprising that's that case.
And it's just, I don't know if it's a global warming, ha ha ha, because people just don't believe science anymore. And is it that, or is it just something else, or is it just
the people who have the money, who are making money off of this stuff, have been able to convince a vast majority of the world or of the country.
I wouldn't say a vast majority.
Enough of at least of the majority of the voters, the people who actually go out and fucking vote.
Yeah.
That it's all fake and that science is wrong and science doesn't is fallible.
Because Republicans make up less than 50% of the country. That's why.
Yet they fucking win all the time. So that means they're the ones voting.
Well, see, and that's the thing. If you look at going back to 2016, if you look at votes cast in that election and compare it to votes cast in the previous election, so it would have been 2012, right? Mm-hmm. Donald Trump basically got roughly the same number of votes that Mitt Romney got. Right,
mm-hmm. Which means the other side stayed home.
That's exactly what it was.
That's my point.
Hillary Clinton got a lot less votes than Obama did.
Right, because the people didn't show up.
Yeah, because people said, "Well, I'm not going to vote for her."
Right.
So
they stayed home.
You know people like that.
I do.
So
I do. No names. Because I'm having that same argument with the current class of Democrats. So. And I don't disagree on many levels, but I also I don't know if I can handle 4 more fucking years of Trump. I really don't.
Unfortunately, I think the only way you're going to get around that is
moving.
No,
or dying.
I think Biden. I think is the only one that can.
I know, but and I don't think he can win either. I really don't.
I think he can, because I think a lot of people look at it, maybe not even so they use a Democrat or anything like that. I think a lot of people, even like middle of the road centrist Republicans and Democrats alike, look at him and say, "Look, at least this is a return on normalcy."
Yeah, but it's the normalcy that got us in the Trump problem in the first place.
Is it?
Yeah. It's the normalcy. It's the complacency of the Democratic Party that for a while there, for a long time, they were the party of the lower middle class.
They're the party ideas, and they're no longer that.
Right, but that's because of their complacency, and that's what, to some, Joe Biden represents, and that is also no argument that kind of led to this Trump, because he started going after those voters, at least in his rhetoric.
Look, if Donald Trump wasn't Donald Trump, if he was, George Smith, and he wasn't a TV celebrity,
right?
There's no way the guy gets elected.
You're right, but
no way.
But my point is
he got elected because he was a celebrity. And
I'm just telling you, do not take
things.
Don't take the blame off the Democrats, though.
And of course,
they gave him that election.
Absolutely, but the whole birtherism, all that stuff, all led to that. It was a long play by Donald Trump and his people.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you, but definitely do not take the blame away from the Democrats because they were on a downward spiral anyway.
But the thing is, what else? What else could they have done in 2016?
Well, they could have been a bit more fair with the primaries than Bernie. Not to say that he should have gotten the nomination. I'm just saying they should have been more fair with him.
People cast their vote, and he lost. They didn't steal the nomination from him.
They didn't give him a fair shake.
Did they? Did they not?
They didn't. No.
How?
They cut him out of a lot of potential. I'm not saying that Bernie would have won. I'm not even saying that he should have gotten the nomination based on the votes.
I don't think he should have got the nomination.
But the point is that it appeared.
I voted for the guy.
So did I. It appeared as though he was getting the short end of the stick. It appeared that it was cronyism, that Hillary was destined to get that nomination because she was next in line, and it just fed into that idea that the Democrats have gotten complacent. Yeah. The Republicans have always done that. Mitt Romney was the next in line. Jeb Bush was supposed to be next in line this time. They got the rug pulled out from under them, so they lost on complacency too. Mm-hmm. But they gained Trump, and he's given them everything they've ever wanted.
The funny thing is, if you go back and look at any of the articles that discussed the screw job against Bernie Sanders in 2016, they're not from legitimate news sources.
It doesn't matter. It's perception. It's fucking perception.
But that's the thing. It's and you want to talk about how Russians are able to influence an election. There's a prime fucking example of it. All you got to do is cause dissension.
Right.
Amongst Democratic voters.
Democratic candidates have never had a problem with dissension amongst each other.
That's true.
They tear each other up terribly every primary season.
But Republicans do the same thing, though. They did the same bullshit. In 2016, they did the exact same thing.
The difference
was they weren't coming from a position of power like the Democrats were.
No. When Republicans tear each other down, they do it, but the second the nomination goes to somebody, everyone falls in line. Democrats do not do that.
That's not true.
That is fucking true.
Because
how many Democrats did not vote for Obama's?
Hold on one second.
Obama's policies.
Hold on 1 second. Every time a party is coming out of power, and there's some kind of fight in a primary situation, after the president is coming out, they lose elections. This happened the same thing to George Bush.
Statistically, yes. What I'm talking about is Democrats, when Donald Trump gets in office, there isn't anything that he does that 98% of the Republicans do not follow, regardless of whether or not they like it or not. Obama gets into office, he couldn't even convince his own fucking party to give him fucking universal health care. He could not even convince his own fucking party, because that's the problem with Democrats. They do not fall into line under whoever's the leader. They do not do that. They eat each other alive, and they let the Republicans fucking win.
No, that's not it at all. It's with the public option, they tried too much to cause. They tried to bridge the gap across the aisle and bring in ideas, so it was more of a bipartisan bill, because they knew if it went out with only Democrats voting for it, it was going to get bashed by the media. It was going to get bashed by the public, which is exactly what happened. So they were trying to create What?
Republicans don't do that. Look at how.
But that's why Republicans don't fucking pass anything either.
Well, no, but they fucking win, and they do pass shit.
So because
they get abortion bans put into place.
Really?
They get yes.
Because they don't go through. And I was going to bring one up in Florida that's
coming up. Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi,
which are all going to get overturned.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
100% sure. Well, I'm going to hold you to that because we're recorded. Because I don't think they will.
They will.
Absolutely. I don't think they will. At least not for many years.
What?
And those the laws they put into effect to basically ban abortions, I don't think they're going to be overturned for years. And how many fucking women are going to suffer as a result of that?
Well, so far, injunctions have been put in against all of them. None of them have gone into effect.
And women have not stopped getting pregnant and not stopped needing those services.
But Ian, when I say an injunction, that means they're not able to shut the places down.
Most of them are already fucking shut down. There's no abortion clinics left in Alabama.
There weren't any before.
There were some. There's none now.
There were
in Georgia, same thing. I'm sorry, you're wrong. Republicans have the advantage because they always fall into line behind each other.
But
Democrats do not.
They don't. Look at this current administration. You're really telling me you're telling me that?
Yes, every fucking one of them. They all. You can see it in their face. They hate the fact that they have to follow this shit, but they do it.
But
you get one or two outliers.
They do the same thing in
Democrats do not.
In office.
No,
yes,
they don't.
Do.
No, they do not. They do not. They turn on each other all the fucking time. All the time.
But what I'm saying though is they all turn on each other.
Maybe during elections,
because I can turn on the news every day and see Republicans coming out against Trump and against his plans.
I bet you couldn't count 10 that have come out vocally, full force against him.
Okay, but it's the same number when the Democrat's in office.
No, Obama could not get the Democrats to agree on anything.
He could. He got them to agree on a lot of stuff.
Please.
Just because they weren't able to get a public option, that's the one thing you're hanging your hat on?
No, there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit. He had the fucking majority. He couldn't get shit done.
He got a lot done when he had a majority. The problem was he didn't have a majority for very long.
He had it for 2 years.
No, he didn't. He had it for 60 fucking days.
How did he only have it for 60 days?
Because Al Franken, there was the legal fight about him, about his seat, so he wasn't seated in the Senate yet.
Okay.
And then Ted Kennedy died. There was only 60 days when he had a majority, or 66 days, something along that. Those are the only. That's all he had.
2 seats he only had a 2-seat majority?
No. When the super majority, because without a super majority, you have to have Republican votes,
right?
Regardless of what you pass. So when they say, "Oh, he had a super majority in the Senate for 2 years," it's garbage. It's not true. He had it for about 66 days, and in those days, they got a lot of stuff passed. They got Dodd-Frank passed. They got the Obamacare passed. They got a lot. I mean, I don't remember what the rest of the list was. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but yeah, they got a lot of stuff done in those 60-some days.
I just don't see it. I do not see Democrats getting behind each other the way the Republicans do.
Especially with the Affordable Care Act, because there was a lot of Democrats that did not like that.
No,
and they went ahead and voted for it anyway.
There were a lot who didn't.
No, I believe they all did except for one.
No, I think there was like 10 who didn't.
Are you sure about that?
No, not 100%. I have to look it up.
Because I'm pretty sure it was like a party line vote.
No, because they had a couple Republicans vote for it too. 1 or 2.
I don't think they did. I think it was a straight.
I think there was 2. Again, don't hold me to it. I have to look it up.
I'm not gonna hold you to anything, Ian.
Well, good, because I'm not claiming to be 100% sure. If I do claim to be 100% sure, you better challenge me for sure. Because if I'm 100% sure of anything, I'm probably not. I'm probably not right, I mean.
I don't remember. It was what, 2010?
Yeah.
So there were 58 Democrats that voted yes. There were 2 independents that voted yes.
Mm-hmm.
There were 39 Republicans that voted no, and 1 Republican that didn't vote. So there wasn't a single Republican vote for the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
It was passed.
I stand corrected then.
Because that was the one. Because what's his name? He was the one Democrat that ended up flipping over and being a Republican.
I don't remember.
He was the one vote that they had to basically take the public option out to get his vote.
They still wouldn't have gotten the. Well, I guess you said they had to have a supermajority.
Yeah, they had to have 60 votes. Because this thing, with the filibuster rule, you got to have.
They definitely need to get rid of that. Elizabeth Warren's calling to get rid of that for right now.
I don't really necessarily agree with that. Let's go back to what we were talking about. I'm done talking about the ACA.
It's all part of the same problem.
What's that?
It's just all part of the fucking problem.
What is?
Shouldn't have a filibuster. The country is majority rule. If a majority of people vote for it or a majority of people support it, it goes through. That's the way it should fucking be.
Okay.
You shouldn't need a super fucking majority if you have a fucking majority. Period. Well, if you're going to filibuster, you're going to give them that protection. Yes, I know it can be used against us.
A lot of times it has been.
But as you pointed out, Republicans don't have fucking policy, so it doesn't matter. And they don't care. Well, they don't care.
They don't have policy because of things like the filibuster.
They don't care. They just change laws no matter what. There's a
how do they change laws?
Alabama is banning abortion. They are openly fucking banning abortion. Mm-hmm. That is illegal.
Okay.
Because that's a constitutionally protected right.
Okay.
So they're breaking the law and they don't fucking care.
It's not a constitutionally protected right, but it's implied.
It's implied.
It's implied.
And they're just blatantly changing the law to suit their own.
Well, they're passing a law. Is what they're doing.
I don't understand why you're fighting me on this. It's fucking wrong. I don't care what the justification for it. It's fucking wrong.
What I'm saying though is
they don't fucking care.
It's not going to get upheld. Is all I'm trying to say.
Well, and like I said, I think you're being way too optimistic.
Well, every legal scholar I've heard or talk about it or
like I said,
they all say the same thing, that the way it's written, it's not going to.
And like the gun issue, how many more fucking people, how many women are going to die because of they don't have the right care, or they have to do these backyard abortions in these states? How many people have to die or have these issues before it changes? And we just sit back and go, it won't go through. It won't go through. And yet we continually let these fucking Republicans change the fucking laws to suit their own beliefs, regardless of majority rule.
I got an idea. How about some Democrats get in power and change the fucking laws?
They won't get in power because we don't have any fucking good Democrats. We can't even agree. The Democrats can't even agree on how fucking liberal they need to be. You got, this guy's a socialist. This guy's a corporatist. That one's too middle ground. No one fucking agrees. Democrats are never going to have any power. Ever.
But see, that's the thing. And that's the thing that's funny is that's the same fight the Republicans had in 2016.
And but they still got in line behind Trump.
And they will when somebody comes out of the process. Well, once they come
I think you're overestimating the Democratic Party.
Really?
Of which I'm a member of. But I truly believe
because there was a lot of dissension in 2008, and they all came around and backed Obama.
And we lost the House, and I know you're going to say that's typical, but
you always lose the House.
That doesn't make any fucking sense. If you're never going to have
because
there's never balance ever.
But because that's how the public sees it. It's probably not intentional. I'm sure they're not going out and voting for a Republican just because there's a Democrat in office. But it seems to be that first election, the first midterm election, the House always flips. It's just the way it always seems, at least in the last 30
ever going to
since the early
change.
90s.
And maybe it's just time to wipe our hands clean of it. It's done. It can't fucking work, is what you're telling me. Because it's just cyclical. It's just cycles of stupidity and bad decisions and law breaking. It's just constantly cycling itself around. I don't necessarily
see a big problem with it, with the House flipping.
I'm not talking about specific. I'm talking about the whole fucking mess. Everything. It's all a mess.
It's a big issue.
And it never works. And I'm just tired of. When is it going to change? When are people going to have to?
It's not going to change.
Then what the fuck is the point?
The point of what?
Of any of it. People will fucking die.
People are going to die every day.
Yeah, but not preventably.
Yes, preventably. They've always died preventably.
Oh, so it's okay. Just whatever. It's just the way it is.
No, what I'm trying to say.
Fuck it. No, fuck it. It's just the way it is.
I'm just trying to say nothing is ever going to be 100%.
No, but you're telling me that we should just accept fucking mass shootings. We should accept women in this country having less rights than men.
When have I said that?
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying you're implying that.
That's not what I'm implying.
These are just things that we just can't fucking do anything about.
No, we are doing something about them. Yes, we are.
What are we doing?
They're fighting them in court. That's exactly what you do.
And women die as a result.
You're right, Ian. In a perfect utopian world, no one would ever pass a law that you didn't agree with.
I'm not saying that.
That's exactly what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is
that's what we have a legal system for, to combat that stuff, to fight those laws.
I'm just tired of it taking too fucking long. Then.
Well, I'm sorry that it all doesn't take place in your time frame.
Well, it's not my time frame.
Well, apparently
it's a rational, compassionate time frame.
Okay, but there's a process to it. When you draft and pass shit laws that hurt people, there's going to be a process to it.
How are these people passing these shit laws when the vast majority of this country does not agree with them?
Because it's those people in those states they're voting for those people.
Then those states should be left alone. Cut them out.
We tried to.
No, we didn't try. They tried to leave. We brought them back. We should have let them go. I'm still for letting them go. We should just cut our losses. Any state that was a Confederate state should just be, say, oh, you know what? We're done with you. Fuck you.
Except for Florida. We can keep Florida.
No, why do you need to keep Florida? It's nothing but a fucking swamp. It's a swamp with alligators and snakes
it's a good place
and
to
hurricanes.
It's a good place to go vacation.
No, it's not.
Yes,
it's fucking hot and humid and disgusting.
Oh, my God. You're such a fucking baby.
No, I just don't like Florida. It's the sweaty balls of the United States. I don't fuck it.
And you've got to have some crazy. You have to keep some crazy around.
We do. We have Ohio.
No, Ohio's not crazy like that.
It's fucking crazy enough.
Google Florida, man.
I know. That's just too crazy. Florida, let Florida go.
If you Google Florida, man, you'll find the
I've seen it.
Shit.
No, Florida can go. I don't need Florida. We've got Ohio.
We can get rid of all the rest of the southern states.
We've got Ohio. We still have Mike Pence's Indiana.
Yeah.
And we'll still technically get Kentucky.
Well, Kentucky's part of the North.
Yeah, exactly. We'll still get Kentucky. So
what's wrong with Kentucky?
The Ark counter? Dinosaurs on the fucking Ark? Come on.
I know, but still. So it's one person, you're holding one person.
The state paid for it. Tax dollars paid for that.
And they also keep re-electing Mitch McConnell. But still.
My point exactly. We've got enough crazy.
But they did have a Democratic governor up until this last election.
Yeah, we still are getting enough crazy by cutting out the whole South and letting them take Florida.
All right, let's get back to our show.
I don't even remember what we were talking about. We're just screaming at each other. 20 minutes.
So the going back to the mercury levels in the fish.
Wow, we really got off topic. Yeah. That's crazy.
So going back, I think the study from Harvard really kind of shows another major way how climate change is impacting the world in ways that people aren't even paying attention to.
Right.
Because it's not just, the oceans are rising.
Right. And the weather's changing.
The weather's changing.
But see, they're not even really paying attention to that either.
They are, but they aren't. At least that kind of stuff, whenever there's like major storms, major flooding, at least climate change is discussed at some level in the national news. And it's things like this where it's climate change is affecting feeding patterns in fish that are leading to rising mercury levels in these fish that people are consuming, and thus, consuming more mercury. Right. And it's just another step, another issue that people I just don't. Not only do they not realize, the media isn't even paying attention to it.
Well, it doesn't sell. It doesn't sell advertising.
And maybe that's it. It's one of those stories where people aren't going to pay attention to it because it's not going to draw eyes. Right. But going to a story another one that I saw that should draw eyes is in Florida. So in late July, so what was it? Last month, a couple of weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
A Florida appeals court sent a lawsuit challenging the state's anti-abortion laws back to the lower court. because the lower court had ruled that the laws were unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. So when an appeals court remands a decision like that back to the lower court, it typically means that
they want them to review it.
They want them to review it, yeah. And a lot of the times it's
mainly because they disagree with the
not necessarily. Sometimes it could be a question of fact. Sometimes and it's probably in this case it's probably this, that the appeals court believes that the lower court should have used a different legal standard in the case, which from what I read about the case, it kind of sounds like that. So like you said, that they obviously don't agree with the ruling. Or that the appeals court believes that the lower court ruled incorrectly on like a motion or excluded admissible evidence. So the circuit court had ruled in 2018 that the state's law, which was signed in 2015, I believe is what it was, which required a 24-hour waiting period for women who were seeking abortions after meeting with a doctor. And the doctor, during that meeting, had to inform them of the possible risks of the procedure, which I think is kind of it's not that big of an issue, I don't think. I mean, I don't really have an issue with a 24-hour waiting period.
No, I guess not. I mean, but we're not women, Nick.
That is true, but it seems like one of the more benign
to us
laws.
I mean, if you've already had to struggle with that decision, another 24 hours is just going to prolong that stress and that frustration. Then I think, but that's, again, we're men. We shouldn't even be discussing. We shouldn't be the ones making the policy. You know what I mean. Men in general should not be, at least not by themselves. Not by themselves, I would say that. But I think I was just kind of. It kind of struck me odd that this is one of the court battles they really focused on, in Florida at least. So the lower court overturned it, said that it was unconstitutional. Right. The appeals court said reevaluate it.
And it's kind of to me it just seems like another part of the process for getting more of these anti-abortion cases before the Supreme Court. Right. I think is what it all actually really adds up to be. Because the more of these cases that come before the Supreme Court, the more likely you are to get to see a bigger case make it up there to overturn Roe v. Wade. I think is what it's all about. So
why would they want to overturn it? Why? Maybe I misheard what you just said. Say that again.
What? So the people that are fighting this law,
right,
lost.
Right.
So the people that are pushing the law are hoping that they lose, so they'll make it up to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Which is what their ultimate goal is.
I see.
Makes sense?
Yeah, for some reason it sounded different the way you said it the first time.
Okay. And maybe I mixed it up.
No, I don't think you did. It's just the way my brain interpreted it.
Okay. Because the more of these cases, the more of these anti-abortion cases or these abortion cases make it to the Supreme Court.
Right. The more likely it is because of the Supreme Court and its imbalance.
Yeah. Well, it's not that. I think because a lot of times you'll get some of these when you get a lot of cases that involve a similar topic, and they'll kind of combine them all. So if you get multiple different angles of the way to attack abortion laws, and you kind of clump them all together, sometimes you might be able to make a stronger argument,
right,
for the banning of them.
Ultimately, we have at least two justices that I know of that have said that if it comes to them, they will overturn Roe v. Wade. Then that's regardless of the argument.
Who is that?
Kavanaugh said that he would, and the other guy that Trump picked, the first one, I can't remember his name.
Merrick Garland? Wait, no. Oops, that was
Obama's pick. The other one, yeah.
That's why I said that.
Yeah.
Because it should have been
him. Yeah, absolutely. No, whoever got his seat.
Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Because it's kind of a similar odd name like that. But yeah, he said the same thing, that if it came to him, he would be willing to.
I don't know. I think a lot of times it kind of. I think it depends on the argument that's used, and it's obviously going to.
Yeah, but when you state that without an argument in place, you already are implying that you don't care about the argument.
No, but like I said before, it also depends primarily on who is arguing the case for the U.S. government.
Right.
If you have an administration in office that is anti-abortion, obviously it's going to be a different argument than if you have somebody that's in favor of
women's rights,
abortion rights, women's rights, whatever way you want.
I mean, you've got to word it properly. It's not about abortion. It's about women's
because
rights.
I don't think anyone's really pro-abortion.
No.
If I had it my way, there wouldn't be any abortions.
No, because women would have
proper access to
birth control.
Yes, exactly. Education.
Yeah. And I would have medical or scientific research being done to find ways to get men birth control.
Yeah, if I had it my way, no one would need an abortion.
Right.
I guess I should state it that way.
Did you say education?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
Because
that's the number.
Education's a big part of it.
So.
But so it's one of those things. I'm surprised. At least MSNBC or something. But then again, I don't really watch them. But I'm surprised one of the more liberal news networks out there
MSNBC isn't very liberal. They tried so hard to be centrist that they're almost innocuous. Is that the right word? Innocuous?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I feel that way with CNN.
The CNN's the same way. So that's part of the issue I have with the media. People will bitch about this liberal media. There is no such thing.
Yeah, there is. It's not very big.
It's fringy though. Yeah. It's fringe. It's like it's like Breitbart. It's not. We don't have our Fox News. Liberals don't have. They say it's MSNBC, but it's not.
It's
MSNBC skirts the line sometimes.
I
will
say that MSNBC used to be more crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
liberal.
Crazy though. They weren't.
Yeah, they were.
Not really. When Keith Olbermann was there, he was a bit extreme. But who
was the other guy? Ed Schultz.
Yeah.
He was really.
He was pretty extreme.
He was pretty
not
extreme.
That's a bad word. He was not extreme. He was just very liberal. Very liberal.
Well, I think you can say that. I don't know. I
guess to the right wing that's extreme, but he was just very liberal.
I wouldn't classify a lot of the people on Fox News as extreme either, in that same sense.
Tucker Carlson's extreme.
I would say he's very conservative,
and Sean Hannity is extreme.
Well, Sean Hannity is, but
no, Tucker Carlson's as bad as Sean Hannity for sure.
I wouldn't say
now.
That.
Granted, Fox News lost the vast Tony Lahren, or whatever her last name is.
Yeah,
she's fucking extreme.
She is.
So they have their extreme.
She's also a dingbat too.
Yeah.
But if you've ever actually seen a real interview with her,
yeah,
she's not.
No, I have.
She's a lot better when she has something scripted in front of her.
Of course, they all are. But Fox and Friends, have you ever listened to their talking?
Obviously,
points?
Ian's not, because Ian never has anything scripted.
I don't need it. Off the cuff, baby. Off the cuff.
Just like Trump, off the cuff.
Difference is I'm not a fucking moron. No, I shouldn't say that. I might be a fucking moron. I'm not his level of fucking moron.
I don't think Trump's a moron.
No,
I don't think you can get to the point where he was at in life, at least in the business world, with being
there's a difference. There's a difference between being smart and being intelligent. He's not intelligent. He's smart, but he's not intelligent.
Yeah, well,
there is a difference.
Okay.
Because you have to. If you're smart, you can be a con man, which is what he is. That's how he got to where he's at. He's a fucking con man.
Well, I think you have to be a good business person.
There's maybe a little bit.
You want to tell me that no other big business person's ever been?
But there's
Steve Jobs wasn't a con man at some level.
Well, he was a thief.
Okay, then.
Yeah. So was Bill Gates.
So
they stole together. They stole from Xerox.
Yeah.
Actually,
but that's what I'm saying though, is you don't get to that kind of level of business. I don't want to say fame, but to get to that level in business and not at some level have.
It would be fair to say that there's a fair amount of businessmen who've done it legitimately.
No, because at some level you've got to be able to rub people in ways to get them to do things.
Well, there's nothing wrong with schmoozing.
But that's what I'm saying though.
Trump has outright conned people. He's conned fucking banks.
He has, but I think that's kind of what helped him win the election in 2016.
Because he conned people.
He was able to schmooze the American people.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think he conned them because what they don't understand is that all those tax breaks, they're gone now for us. They go away this year.
Yep.
When you file your taxes next year,
you'll be like, what the hell happened?
Exactly. But his stayed the same.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for that to happen. I can't wait for people to go, my taxes went. Yeah, your fucking taxes went up. Guess why? You were fucking conned.
I don't think you'll hear anyone talk about it, really.
Yeah, well, they should. But see, that's another thing that's underreported. These things like how they approach certain individual stories, like the tax cuts. It's not that it's underreported, but it's reported in a vacuum. So you got your Fox News
you're
reporting only that it's great, it's tax cuts. Then you got just the centrist / liberal, if that's what it is, reporting on the downfalls of those tax cuts and what's going to happen.
See, that's the problem with the
bubbles,
internet.
the vacuum. I'm just talking about the media in general. This is just television.
But I think it's all a product of the internet, though, because you've got news media. You've got news media enterprises that are gearing itself towards certain echo chambers,
right? But that's my point. That's the point I was making.
But because when you go online, you generally are in your own bubble,
right?
You're going to, if you're on Facebook, you're going to surround yourself generally with people that kind of think and say the same things as you. So,
unfortunately,
most people do.
Right.
If you take a poll, I pretty much guarantee you that a vast majority, almost 100% of people, will tell you most of their friends on Facebook are of the same political party.
I wish I could say that. I because I don't unfriend people for their political views. I'm surrounded almost entirely by Trump supporters.
Well, but then you're one of the rare cases because most of the people and
that's because they unfriend people based on their political views.
And I've talked to a lot of people about this before over the past 10 or so years, and that's kind of the way it seems every time. Is either people get off of Facebook or social media altogether, or they live in their echo chamber.
Right.
And Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, whoever feed off of that,
right?
Because they see what's hot in the echo chamber, and that's what they go after,
right?
Because they know it's like shooting fish in a barrel. With the current climate, I probably shouldn't use a shooting analogy, but they know that's an easy.
It's a built-in market.
Yes.
It's a built-in market.
Yeah. And that's all I was saying about the internet.
Right. Yeah. No. It all feeds itself for sure. And I should point out that the vast majority of my people on Facebook are Trump supporters. I won't unfriend them for their political beliefs, but I will unfriend people for racist comments, homophobic comments, and anti-feminist comments.
Yeah, so, I don't see a whole lot of that, though.
I don't.
But then again, I'm not on Facebook a whole lot.
Right.
I get on Facebook to post stuff for the podcast, and that's about it. I'm on more, and I'm not even on Twitter a whole lot anymore. Mainly, I'm on Instagram all the time.
Yeah. And when I'm on Instagram, I have nothing political on there.
I don't think
Facebook
I do.
Over the last 10 years that I've been on it, I've the political stuff's built because I've looked at this and that, and it's become part of the algorithm.
I think
I refuse to do anything political on Instagram because I don't want any of that feed coming in.
I think Mayor Pete's probably the only person political wise that I follow on Instagram.
Yeah. So I'm guessing he's kind of your candidate right now.
He is. I like a lot of the stuff he says, but
I don't dislike him. I think he's. That gun plan. There's nothing wrong with that gun plan. It just won't ever happen. I have a feeling I don't like his approach to because he's kind of hemming and hawing on the whole public option for healthcare. Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know.
I get it, but it's not practical. I mean, if you're gonna have an opposing view. We need to be looking at a public option because
I think he does also.
He hasn't said he said the exact opposite. So he says he does not think that a public option is necessary.
Because his plan is and has been for a while now, Medicare for all who want it.
Which that's a public option.
Yes,
but then he goes on and says he doesn't like a public option. So either he's misunderstanding what his own policy is. Or he's mincing words, and that's not good either.
I don't know. It's because I've heard him talk about it a couple times. I don't know. I don't want to get too far into that, but
right. Well, I'm sure we'll have to discuss it at some point down the road.
No, because he's gonna be in it for a while at least. But,
a little bit, yeah. I think he qualified for the next.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He's
one of the highest.
Well, the highest.
He's gotten the highest level of donations. I think one of them.
I
think he even did better than Biden on a couple things like levels of donations.
Yeah, he was I believe he was number one this last quarter.
Okay.
Number one overall for
second
donations.
Was Elizabeth Warren.
I think he's. I don't know if he's probably not the right candidate now because I don't think he could beat Donald Trump. No. But I think.
And I don't know if the country's really ready for a gay president.
No,
an openly.
But
gay
I think and he's still young. He's still 30s.
I think he's just 35. He's just old enough.
So I think he's the future of where the Democratic Party is going to be.
I think he could be, yeah. I'd like to think he could be.
10 to 15 years?
Yeah. Well, let's say 8 years or 9 years.
Okay.
You know, especially if we get a Democratic president.
Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on how the party and the country kind of evolve.
4 years. If you get Trump, let's go 4 years. Let's get him back for 4 years.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. But I did want the last article I kind of wanted to talk about. Actually, it involves Trump, and that's the so he's kind of turned into a threat against the endangered. Was it the Endangered Species Act? Is what it is.
Well, because he keeps letting them change it, like take protections off of the board.
Okay, so is this so? I'm assuming maybe this has been kind of covered.
I've heard bits and pieces, yeah.
So
and this is because of MSNBC. They do bring this up occasionally, specifically when it comes to just environmental things.
Okay.
Climate change, it's kind of all wrapped in, but they'll mention, certain species being affected by this certain policy change and things like that.
So in spring of 2019, so just earlier this year, there was a report called "On Thin Ice" by Charles Pekow, I think is how you say his last. Pekow. I'm terrible with fucking names.
Yeah, me too.
But I think it's Pekow. I think is how you say it.
Sounds right.
But it was published in Earth Island Journal, and he said that the Endangered Species Act is, and this is a direct quote from the article, is increasingly challenged by an administration that has little patience for laws and regulations that helps protect our lands and wildlife. And at least 80 bills seeking to undermine the Environmental Species Act or remove species from the list have been introduced in Congress since he's taken office.
Yeah.
And kind of one in particular is the Pacific walrus.
Huh.
Which I guess I don't even know. It's got to be like far up north Pacific, right? Be the only place where there'd be walruses.
I don't know. I'm not a walrus expert.
No, I thought you were.
No, sea lions.
Oh no! I'm sorry. That was John.
John
was the walrus.
No, Paul was.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh.
The walrus was Paul.
Oh.
To quote the line.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mixed up my Beatles.
Yeah, that's okay.
Damn it. But
speaking of which, they announced the Abbey Road big box set.
I did see that. It's expensive as hell, though.
It's the same as the other one's $100, I think.
Oh, is it?
$110.
Really? I thought it was more than that.
I don't think so. It's 4 discs. So. But anyway,
right.
that's a huge jump off the topic.
Yeah. So. Big segue in the wrong direction. Eh?
Yes.
So in 2008, it was first proposed to add the Pacific walrus to the ESA, and in 2011, it was either 2011 or 2012, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services also joined in requesting the protections, and a final decision was to be made in 2017. Well, in October of 2017, the Trump administration determined that they weren't going to put the walrus on the list. And in their explanation, they said that this is kind of the line that really kind of caught my eye. It says that they explained it by saying that the impacts of effects of climate change on the Pacific walrus population are based on speculation rather than reliable prediction. And to me, that's kind of code for
bad science.
Yeah, climate change is bullshit, basically.
Right.
But
I mean, there's nothing we can really say because we know, and it's not just the Trump administration. It is Republican policy to challenge the concept of climate change.
Yeah.
Especially as far as it goes towards industries that produce the vast majority of carbon that contributes to it, fossil fuel, that kind of stuff. So it's no surprise, and because when you've got species that are on the endangered list as a result of climate change,
which a lot of them are probably on there because of it,
right? But the more you put on, adding new ones, it's even if it's just on paper, it's an acknowledgement that climate change is real, that something is happening. So the more you take off of there, the easier it is for your talking points to bleed through.
That makes sense. There is an ongoing legal battle about it.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Center of Biological Diversity is currently in a lawsuit with the Trump administration about adding it on the list. So we'll kind of see where it goes. I don't know. It's just the ability of this administration to kind of ignore facts and establish science. I mean, at this point, that's what climate change is.
Yes. Well, I mean, don't even get me started on science, because we live in a country where science is considered hokey.
Well, I know. We kind of did like a whole episode about that not too long ago.
Did we?
Yeah.
Why don't I remember that?
I don't know, because you probably didn't have notes for that episode, so it kind of didn't.
I don't have notes for all of our episodes. I still remember the vast majority of them. So now I do remember vaguely, because I remember I had to keep my mouth shut about the religious side of it.
That should kind of throw up red flags, though. To
all
people.
of it should.
All of it.
I mean, everything we've talked about tonight should be throwing up red flags. So
I don't know. It's I've always been kind of, at least in the last 10 or 15 years, I've had big issues with the media because of things like this.
Right.
You either have news organizations that create stories to report on, or they report on false stories.
Fox News.
Well, I wasn't going to say names.
I have no problem saying
or
names.
You have other news medias like MSNBC
that just ignore
it, and that's things like this. Things like the abortion fight in Florida. Things like the Environmental Protection Act.
I will say that they do talk about these things, but it's very narrow. It's very specific at certain times, and it's
disjointed.
It's disjointed. The conversation isn't strong enough.
Yeah,
they're having it.
They
mix it in with other things.
They use it as filler.
Yeah, essentially, it kind of fills in. Yeah, it is a, it'll be part of all the other lists of things that Donald Trump's administration is doing.
Yeah.
ABC, and it's like F.
But it's there. But there's no really in depth.
No in depth. No, exactly. Occasionally, they might do a special report on climate change when there's big storms and stuff like that. Just like they do special coverage on gun control when there's mass shootings that are big enough to warrant the story.
Just like they do big special reports when they get Donald Trump's tax return. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Oops.
Right. Yeah, they really screwed the pooch on that.
Yeah, they shit the bed on that one. That was pretty bad. Because they were like building that up for the entire day. They even had like a countdown.
Yeah.
On the screen,
and it was like
nothing. It was
because it was 1 year.
It was the definition of a nothing burger, and it was 2 pages. It was like an abstract from his return. It didn't even say anything.
Yeah.
At some point, some chucklehead at MSNBC should have read that and be like,
"This is not going to fly.
This is not going to work."
Right. Well, maybe they were just trying to play the Fox News.
That's exactly what they were trying
playbook.
to play.
They were
That's exactly what they're playing.
And it did backfire.
It did because now they came off looking like complete morons. They played into the right's hand.
Right.
But
the sad thing is it would have worked for Fox News. It just it didn't work for MSNBC.
I don't know if it would have. If there had been a big,
they've made bigger stories out of less.
If there was a big scandal about Obama's tax return and they literally got like 2 sentences.
Look at how much traction the birther movement got on Fox News.
But Ian, the thing is though, that tax return that Rachel Maddow had, basically all it said was that he donated money to charity. I
understand that.
There was literally nothing to it.
But there was nothing to the birther thing, and it still got traction on Fox News because they knew what they were doing. MSNBC did not know.
Birtherism gained traction because people just don't understand laws in our country.
They don't understand much in this country.
Well,
the English language, for example.
Methinks.
Oh,
methinks.
Misha thinks we are stupid. We is a stupid.
We are some kind of tough.
Yeah. Don't you just miss those days when things were just simpler? We had a pseudo tyrant in the office.
Yeah, when all you had to do was say something bad about the president and you lose your whole music career.
Well, right.
Not much has changed, Dan.
No, I guess it hasn't.
No.
Well, but it wasn't the administration ruined their music career. It was their fans.
Yeah.
The problem is that they should have known their fan base better. Considering they were country music artists.
That's a big example of know your crowd.
Yes, exactly. Not to say that it was right, because it wasn't, and I support what they did, and the fact that they suffered for it, but they should have known better, considering their crowd.
Kind of going back to what we were talking about, though, I always say, if you're gonna never rely on one source
I know.
for your information.
Right. Well, as an example,
as hard as it is to go out and find stories from multiple different sources, you got to do it.
Right, and you got to be careful, because as a result, I did go looking for notes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, talk about that real quick.
I went looking for notes, and I can't remember the exact stories, but I found a couple and was like, oh, I hadn't heard anything about that. And then when I did a little bit more research, I found out that it was like bullshit stories. Yeah, like, I mean, and I was pointing out, I can't even remember what it was exactly, but it was one that was even like a liberal side story that was extremely exaggerated, but vast majority of it was right wing.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to find stories that are just fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Always, if something doesn't sound right to you, it probably isn't true.
And I guess to most people, if you see a story on what appears to be a reputable website, you're going to say, "Oh, okay, take that as a fact, or at least a well-researched potential."
Yeah.
I guess my mistake, or to my credit, was I saw these stories and tried to find other websites that carried
substantiated it.
Yeah, so that it wasn't just one story from one site.
Yeah. Like you said, even like reputable sites, you got to be careful on.
Right, because you don't know.
Because sometimes there's things, especially on websites, there's op-eds that aren't really listed like op-eds.
Exactly, and that there were a couple that were like that. It was like the way it was worded, it was a story, but it really was just an op-ed.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, I can't. That's not a story.
No, there's not. It's not.
That's not unreported news, because that's just somebody's opinion.
Yeah.
So, and I did. There was one I was gonna go. I read it and I was like, well, I don't disagree with this, and I know some of these facts to be true, and it was an op-ed, and I was like, well, let me see if I can find those. I just never got around to checking on other facts on that story. So,
but I don't know, Ian, that's all I got.
Yeah, me too. I think is this our longest episode ever?
No, not even close.
Oh,
no,
I can't really see it.
Not even remotely close. Remember, we had that one episode that was almost 2 hours long.
Right. Well, as blurry as that is, I can't tell if that's 1 hour 20 or 1 hour 50.
No, it's not even close to that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. It felt like it after a while because we were screaming at each
other. So any questions or comments, you email us at contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook and all that jazz. That's all I got, man. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Playing my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a crowd around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, the niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit. Watch out, you the car, Billy. Oh shit. Right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch.